People have been reporting seeing non-human beings, aliens, extraterrestrials, however one might term it, interdimensionals, these beings. And one that we know is very common is the small gray alien with the big eyes and short, big head, long, skinny arms, fingers, all that. So people have been reporting seeing them for a long, long time. And even such as the case at schools, in like a famous case, the Ariel case in Zimbabwe. 30 children seeing the same thing, a craft coming and small beings coming out. And Harvard psychologist John Mack went over there and interviewed all the kids. So there's all that. Anyway, people have been seeing these, right? Now, in this video, I want to take a moment to ponder the claim that's more obscure. It's less seen out there in the zeitgeist of the UFO subject, and that is that some of these aliens that people have seen could be a type of robot or a biological android. So the first time I really heard this was from Stephen Greer, and he has a witness where the witness claimed to have had an interaction with a being during an abduction type of experience, and then when he grabbed at the being, underneath the skin there was like wires. Now, this that we're seeing on the screen is a illustration. This is done by Michael Schratt, is going to be my assumption, because he does all these type of illustrations for the Disclosure Project and Stephen Greer. So, but this doesn't look like the case where the flesh was pulled away and there was wires, because I think I've seen Schratt do an illustration of that before. So what is this picture exactly? A little context. The Disclosure Project and Stephen Greer just released a archive basically of all of their files and data going back decades to just be available to the public, and it's searchable and it's categorized and whatnot. So I think he's hyping it up a little bit, but it is a bunch of data. It's interesting. It's stuff that's thought-provoking, if nothing else. And I just started looking on there, and this was one of the first things I came across. And we look at the title here: Alien Electric Mechanical Biological Android, aka a PLF, Programmed Life Form. So, and they kind of made this annoying on the website here, because see how I can zoom in? You can't. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, so let's zoom in here. So I don't know. I just want to take a look at this thing and see what the description is, and as we kind of think about, is this possible? I mean, certainly we could imagine it's possible. If we can imagine that a secret group, as Colonel Fletcher Prouty, who was a chief of special operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 1955 to 63, I believe it was. This dude wrote a book that I'm reading right now called The Secret Team. And it's his assessment of what he sees as being this kind of small group of powerful people, a cabal, at the top of a pyramid that's pulling strings of government and all of these secrets of all this stuff. It's coming from him. But of course, we all have heard, this is nothing new, that there's an elite kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. And anyway, that's a side tangent. The point that I'm making is, if we can imagine a cabal like that, they would be operating in this field of recovering potential technologies from other worlds that are non-human, biologics and craft. I mean, this is what David Grush has claimed, and the Inspector General of Intelligence has deemed credible and urgent. So if they could do that, and if they could potentially start to have figured out anti-gravity or new forms of propulsion or technologies that we can't even imagine, for example, Ben Rich, who was the owner or CEO, whatever, high level of Lockheed Skunk Works, which is literally the corporation that works on some of the most, if not the most, secret aircraft and technology for as a military contractor for the United States. I mean, he said that anything you could imagine in science fiction, they've figured it out there. Or he allegedly said that. He publicly did make a quote that everybody refers to, saying we have the technology to traverse the stars. Anyway, whole point there being, if this group potentially has made these breakthroughs in technology of propulsion, flight, why not in this concept of programmed life form? Why not? I mean, we could understand why it would be useful, especially to an agency like the CIA, that, as Colonel Fletcher Prouty describes it, to them, it's the world is like a playground. So why not play with this and mess with people with abductions? Allegedly, and this is what Greer always uses in his presentations to argue this point, is that allegedly he has a document, or Jacques Vallée has a document that said the CIA was doing staging abductions as a psychological operations experiment in Latin America. And then you have Greer interviewing Richard Doty for the Disclosure Project, and Richard Doty saying, yeah, we did things like that at Office of Special Investigations at the Air Force, OSI. Doty, I can't really make much of anything that he says, because he's, was a career disinformation agent. And the Jacques Vallée thing also, I mean, the other thing, to go back to Colonel Fletcher Prouty, what he says, and again, we're taking this from somebody who worked 9 years at a high position in the Pentagon, basically overseeing the CIA. And he's saying that intelligent agents, this is knowing a part of the game, and they feed particular people that are going to write or publish about things to just carry out whatever agenda they want certain people or the public to think. So, and I mean, we know they did that. I mean, Bill Colby, CIA director in the early 70s, I believe, early mid-70s, at the Church Committee hearings, testified, said, yes, we have people in the media that do things for us or whatever. Anyway, we're given all this context here to just, before we look at this thing, which will be interesting, but let's extrapolate this type of secret team, if you will. Would they do this? Would they create a very convincing looking alien robot to mess with people, to do something? I don't know, but let's see what this is. So according to this witness, both arms went straight out, both legs brought knees to chest, okay? And the hands and forearms were brought in 90 degrees. All right. Detail interior view of wiring harness connected to CPU. That seems a little bit weird. Would it really be looking like that, like my computer router type of wiring? Again, this is an illustration here. It's not like a real technical drawing, even though It looks nice. I'll give it to him. But it's misleading if you don't have the context of what this is, with the big top secret stamp on it. It's not a top secret drawing. It's a fictional, basically, drawing of a witness testimony. So the thing could pivot and move. Okay, the arms flicked the hands, and this caused the alien to sit up, followed through almost straight back. Okay. And what else? This looks like what the CPU brain was. I guess it looked like that, the inside of a computer. And there were man-made ARVs, that's alien reproduction vehicles, used with program lifeforms to hoax alien abductions. All right, let's think about this for a second. Now, I know this is Greer's whole vendetta and crusade is it's all being done by humans, by evil human group. And, I'm not sure if he says 100%, but he definitely says that the majority of people's abduction experiences are from these human clandestine operations. And I don't know if there's what kind of validity there is to that. But we do know, for example, the cattle mutilations. This is one of those conundrums in the UFO subject. In the history of it, people have seen UFOs around the cattle mutilation incidents. People have seen helicopters and military personnel. So what's going on there? And I think that dovetails into this concept of using man-made UFOs like the TR-3B triangle you see there. And look, I've spoken with MUFON directors of different states, and these are the people that see all the reports that are just coming in from people that see things. Maybe you're just a person, you saw something and you call it in, and maybe you don't really do much more than that. But hey, MUFON exists. These are probably a large percentage of these reports are really people seeing things. That's the thing. Like, these things are out there. That's why we're having hearings in Congress and legislation and all this, because this is not a joke anymore. And those are the same words of high-ranking members getting classified of the government, of the Congress, getting classified briefings, months earlier from when I'm speaking right now. So they're out there. And I've even seen, as I've said in other videos I've mentioned, I've seen a typical, stereotypical gray disc, metallic colored, disc shaped. Only saw it for about 3 seconds, because in my case it actually just disappeared. Maybe it was only 2 seconds, but I definitely saw it. And people have been seeing, and so I've spoken to people. So, for example, the Connecticut MUFON director, Michael Panicello, and asked him, what kind of sightings do you get? A lot of triangles. Lots of triangles for years and years and years. One of the most well-documented UFO cases is the Belgian triangles, and that was in the 80s or 90s. So it looks like, and then you've had people saying, like Fauci, other people who have come out over the years and said, yes, the triangle was one of the early successful human-made alternative propulsion devices that are virtually silent with whatever they're using. And so people seeing a lot of triangles, and even the radio show host for Coast to Coast, he was saying that in his town, people would regularly, and they live near Area 51, Art Bell. They live near Area 51, and he's saying it was just like a local thing, like you just knew. You just saw the triangles. Oh, yeah, you saw one today? Yeah, it's nothing new. And he said him and his wife multiple times saw the triangle craft hovering overhead. So, imagine how that would change your worldview if you saw that once. And even that is interesting. Perhaps a clue. I'm just thinking on the spot now. And if you haven't listened to this, you should go listen to the Joe Rogan interview with David Grush. Because David Grush actually hasn't given that many public interviews. And I listened to them all for the most part. And in the Joe Rogan one, it's very different because he opens up the most and he gives more details that you don't hear in the News Nation interviews or anything else, and tells it more like a human story, kind of. And one of the, and I believe, if I remember correctly, the first person that told him said that they were on their way to work. This was like a high-ranking military person. They were just on their way driving to the base or to work, and a huge triangle was overhead and just hovered there and then flew away extremely fast. And then, if I remember correctly, they also started having some weird physiological responses, and this is what opened the beginning for David Grush, is how he explains it on the Rogan interview. So the triangle really has a presence. And then, and the last part I'll say about the triangle is looking at the Hudson Valley sightings, the Hudson Valley sightings are wild. They're quite unique from a lot of the substantial UFO cases. They're unique in that they went on for about 4 to 6 years straight. Thousands of people seeing them day after day, night after night. Credible people, police chiefs, pilots, doctors, lawyers, teachers, all kinds of people, to the point that they even had a huge auditorium packed to give a presentation on what was going on in the Hudson Valley. Not far. I live in the Hudson Valley, so it's kind of cool history. And these were massive. Most of them were described as boomerang shaped, but there were also triangles. And seeing these night after night, silent, massive, football field size or bigger, hovering and then disappearing, going away. Anyway, so it's like, what's going on there? And I think this is one of the questions that Greer and the Disclosure Project raises. Now, he has a very aggressive approach to it and making some claims that are, on the surface incredulous. Robot aliens, staging abductions, right? But we know something's going on. We know that it's quite possible that there are clandestine human operations using triangle craft or other types of craft. So the robot, it's not, and now going way back to 7 minutes ago with the cattle mutilations, right? It seems very clear that there was some type of involvement with whatever was going on with the cattle mutilations and covert human operations. So to think that they wouldn't mess around and be like, all right, let's go see if we can do an abduction, and make it convincing, I wouldn't put it past them. I really would not. So anyway, let's continue here. But I'll admit, it is incredulous on the surface. And the question, why would they hoax the abductions? Well, let's wrap it up on that after we finish here. Number 8, the alien stands as motion. 9, arms lower and it kind of bows. It has like a kind of ridiculous, typical Hollywood robot arm there, hand there. But this is apparently a detailed view of robotic hand with polymer skin removed. So it had like a fake skin on it. I've always thought like that's where it's going. We already have robots. And if there really is this secret team, this secret kind of technology that's beyond anything that's publicly available now, this wouldn't be too far off. And maybe somebody really did see this, I think that we can't like jump to a conclusion though, like Greer kind of seems to do, and say all the abductions are from this. I think it's plausible that some of them could be from this, or hey, for all I know, maybe the majority of them. I don't know. the abduction phenomena is a whole different thing. And I've been studying more broadly the UFOs and the cases and the whistleblowers and the witnesses, and the abductions is almost, it's a different branch, but I think it's very important to hear what people have been saying. It's just really hard because you have a mix, just like you have with the nuts and bolts craft, and the whistleblower side of it is you have people that unfortunately they just make stuff up, or that's even just actual disinformation, but then you have real stuff, and I guess that's effective at having propaganda or confusing a field that might be on to your secrets from an intelligence psychological operation standpoint. So it's messy, but hey, this is something to think about. Could there be robotics? This would be interesting to hear whistleblowers come out about stuff like this. I mean, you have to have someone that worked on this, but that goes to the compartmentalization aspect. For example, maybe only one person would know that they made a fake alien with a robot because it was so compartmentalized. You know, one person's working on this chip and they have no idea what it's for. One person's working on a hand or even a finger of a hand. I don't know. Different parts of it all. Oh, we're making a simulated head. Who knows? You might not even... You could totally compartmentalize this project so that one or very few people would know that the final goal was to have an alien. And then even beyond that, it would be compartmentalized as to, okay, what are we using this for? You could say, oh, it's for a Hollywood film. We're contracted, or whatever. People would only with the highest need to know would know what it's for. And again, to wrap it up and go back to Colonel Fletcher Prouty, reading his work right now, a book that was suppressed because of his credibility. And he is explaining in the book just how secrets are kept and how even people in high-ranking positions within the government, military, industrial apparatus are still taking orders. And he said that Winston Churchill was taking orders from someone, the Dulles brothers. I don't know. I just try to hear what people are sharing that have been in closer contact with the reality of all this stuff. And that's all that we can really do and make of what we will. I mean, clearly there's something going on here. I just think we have to consider all this stuff because we don't want to have like a limited disclosure, so to speak, where it's something just, hey, yeah, there's things flying around and we don't know what they are, and a couple times there's been biologics and we have a couple craft, but it can't be revealed. I don't know what's going on with the whole thing. It's as big of a mystery as ever right now, but it's gotta go somewhere. It's gotta go somewhere. And I'm grateful to be still, God willing, I have decades left to see how this all plays out. So, I don't know. Do you think that there could be alien, electrical, mechanical, biological androids, programmed life forms that some agents in their playgrounds of the world have kind of staged alien abductions? And yeah, let's end on that question. Why would they do it? Why? I've heard, I think, Greer answer that question saying to create a fear narrative so that they could have a false flag in the future that like these are bad beings. I don't think that is a complete assessment of why they would do such a thing. Maybe that's another question or something to look deeper into. Richard Doty said that they did stuff like that. Was he being honest? Because we know that he intentionally messed with people and gave them fake UFO information. Was he doing that to the Disclosure Project? Or was he saying that they really did this stuff? I don't know. Well, let's see how it all shakes out. Thank you for watching. And if you want to get it in your feed when we have some new videos or information here. Hit the subscribe or the like button, as they say. I'm just here to kind of share what I think about all this stuff and research sometimes as well. Some more in-depth research. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.